Welcome to another show. We appreciate you being here. We have another great guest with us. We have Myrtle Hall here with us today. Thank you for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you into the industry, how long you've been in.
Okay. Well, my name is Myrtle Hall, as he said, and I'm a realtor. I've been a realtor for about 7 years now, 6 to 7 years. And I mean, I've always been in sales and marketing. So prior to that, I worked for a wine and spirits company and enjoyed that very much as well. So a few things happened there, and I just decided, you know, I've got a lot of management skills because I managed teams. I always interacted with upper management and doing lots of sales to managers of wine departments and things of that nature. I just thought, you know, I'm going to go out and take a risk on myself and become a realtor.
Cool, cool. So in the wine sales, were you traveling a lot or was it based locally?
So I traveled a lot throughout the valley.
Okay.
Yeah, so my territory, a lot of times I had stores that were in like the South Valley, like the Levine, South Mountain area. And then when my stores changed, like the different national brands of stores that I would cover, I was all over the valley.
Okay. Well, so when you transitioned over to real estate, I guess what was it that drew you to this industry of all the things you could have done?
Yeah, there's quite a bit that's out there that I probably could have embarked upon, but it was kind of like when my husband and I, when we purchased our home, you know, we didn't actually know about real estate from this perspective. So just taking classes and wanting to be able to help people understand that everybody can own a home, I just thought this was going to be the best industry that I could jump into. And then, like I said, with the experience of managing and you know, things like that, I just knew this would be a great fit.
Okay. I appreciate that. So when you were getting in, what kind of, I guess, the misconceptions you had about being a realtor compared to the reality?
There's a lot.
Okay.
There's a lot. But you know, you make your decisions that this is going to be a great fit. And as far as the misconceptions, I'll talk about those. But you know, everybody thinks this is easy. They think that we as realtors, we do absolutely nothing throughout the day. And we were just talking about answering and not answering the phone. But there's a lot that we do when it comes to marketing, when it comes to what I call hustling, just putting yourself out there so that people know who you are and they're able to decide if they want to trust you with a very, very valuable purchase that they're going to make. So yeah, maybe it's a misconception, but you don't get into it thinking, oh, you know, I've got to market myself.
Right.
I've got to go. Last night I was at a networking event. It was hot in that place as well. But you know, you got to get out there and you got to show people who you are and why you would be worthy of being their realtor. Like I said, this is the most, you know, it's going to cost people thousands and thousands of dollars. So you've got to be the best decision maker, consultant for that person, whether they're a buyer or seller. So
cool.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, I guess, the different hats that you wear in a day as a real estate agent.
Oh.
What do those look like for you in a day? How many hats do you wear?
Wow, I don't know if I've ever counted. So, so marketing is typically, that's the biggest hat.
Okay.
And I'm a solo agent, so I'm really managing myself, and I don't have anyone yet that I'm managing, but marketing is probably the biggest hat that I wear. So that also kind of goes in with managing my time, making sure that I'm doing the right thing as far as generating business, trying to find business, not procrastinating, you know, because the longer you put it off, the less your pipe is going to be filled with that business that's going to be coming out. So marketing, time managing, you know, those are probably the two biggest ones.
Okay. What is I guess the thing you hate the most or dislike the most about?
You had to ask. Well, I'm not the biggest fan of cold calling, such as picking up the phone and calling someone. And if my coach is watching this, we talked about that. I need to start working on that. But But I'm cool and I'm good with door knocking.
Okay.
I'm okay with going out and knocking on doors or even putting flyers on doors and, you know, sweating and doing that kind of sweat equity. But phone calling, no.
You know, you're not the only one. It's one of those things. So I think that's interesting because if you knocked on the door of someone you didn't know, it's essentially a cold call. What do you think the difference is?
It is, but just it's body language to me. I want to be able to see the body language. I want to be able to make that eye contact, and that's just, to me, that's different. I don't know if it's old school or what it might be, but I think it's easier for someone on the other end to turn you down or to hang up on you. But when you're in front of them and, you know, if they're answering and responding to your questions, typically they're willing to listen. So to me, it's easier.
It's more humanizing, right?
It is, it is.
Makes sense.
I like that better.
Makes sense. So as a kid, did you grow up dreaming of being a wine and spirit salesperson? Is that what the goal was?
No, I have to actually say, as a kid, I actually wanted to be what they call a stewardess, a flight attendant, growing up. So that was really where my aspirations were. So
that's interesting. Why that? What was the? Did you see?
I don't know.
See something as a kid?
I don't know. You know, and as a child, it's not like we flew a lot or anything of that nature. But I don't know. And it wasn't like there were many shows on TV. But I aspired to be a flight attendant. So when I graduated from college, I'm a lumberjack. My first job entering the market was with a local airline company. Okay. So I definitely took advantage of those benefits to get some traveling in.
That is cool.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know who I was speaking to about that. Someone else was telling me that they grew up thinking that, but it was a career that was wonderful back in the day.
Okay. Oh yeah,
it was just something that, you know,
I
you
think it
aspired
was
to be.
glamorous,
Right.
the way the ladies and their dresses. Yeah, it was different.
It was prestigious. Now they punch people, get
Now
punched in the face.
now people are fighting.
Yeah, it's crazy. Different world, different world. So, as a kid, who was your role model? Who did you look up to, and what was that like for you?
It probably would have to be my mom, and I don't even think she knows this because I haven't told her that. But you know, there were a lot of things that she really impressed upon me as I was growing up, especially like when I would have to do reports as a little girl. Growing up here in Arizona, I'm a native, I'm from Tucson. She would have me write reports, but I would get the information from the Arizona Informant, it's a local newspaper, it's a black newspaper. So she would always have me focus and learn and get my content from that newspaper because, you know, unfortunately we just weren't taught a lot of that in school. So that was a big focus that she would make of mine growing up. That
is cool. I think it's interesting how, you know, we don't tend to tell our parents those type of things, how much they've influenced us and touched us.
And
I don't know, for whatever
reason.
80. It's a good time to tell her, like, hey, so you know.
Right.
Yeah. So, tell me, I guess growing up here in Arizona, I just assumed that you were fairly sheltered from your culture as Black people and having that around. So, outside of the newspaper, how did you keep that? And what was that like for the family here in Arizona?
Well, it was tough, and it is still tough. I mean, there have been changes over the decades. But yeah, it was tough. That, like I said, that was one of the outlets. My mom we would focus and use the Arizona Informant. As a family, we would get together like for Thanksgiving. I have an aunt who just recently passed away, but we would always come from Tucson, come to Phoenix, and we would celebrate Thanksgiving with our families, and just a huge celebration, cakes and pies and, you know, turkeys and chitlins, all that that good stuff. So that was one way to try to stay a little grounded. You know, and a lot of times I guess I never realized it, that I was typically the only Black child in a class. But in elementary school, I had he was a chorus teacher, and just a real powerful voice, real powerful voice. He would send me cards, like Christmas cards, or just to say, you know, Happy Christmas or Merry Christmas. But I never realized it until I grew up, because he actually taught at Northern Arizona University, where I attended college. And he's a black man. Mm-hmm. So I think it was more of him just, you know, showing support. I'm here for you. But yeah, I never really thought about it. I was always, you know, accepted. I always had friends. I played sports and all of those things. So it was.
It's cool.
It's different out here, because, like, you know, talking to you a little bit earlier about the other project I was telling you about, that person, he grew up in Alabama.
Okay.
So listening to some of his stories, I'm like, really?
Yeah.
That used to
It's different.
Totally different.
Yeah, I grew up in Florida, and my mom and aunts, they just came out this past week. And I've lived in Utah and Oregon, and they've kind of followed me through there, and that was always their, like, you're raising your kids, and they don't have any black people around. And it's there for them, it's a big deal, and for me as well, just having that culture. And I got neighbors here in Arizona now, and my family are like, "Whoa, you got black people in the neighborhood." I'm like, "Yeah, it feels right too." Yeah, so, but yeah, I can appreciate that.
It's different. So even like, it just happens, kind of happenstance, where, you know, people that look like you relate to you and typically want to do business with you. Right. So when we're going and driving in certain neighborhoods, and you'll look and be like, "Oh, yeah. I just saw a black person. I just saw a black person." So yeah, it's just one of those types of relatable moments.
It's interesting. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So do you consider yourself an adventurous person?
Ooh, I do. I do, yeah.
So I guess I love to ask, what would be the craziest thing or the most adventurous thing you've considered you've done?
I've jumped out a perfectly good airplane.
Crazy to me.
Perfectly good airplane. It was my 30th birthday.
Okay.
And I actually had friends and family come out, and the guy that I was harnessed to, he smelled like he had been drinking.
Partying.
Yeah, whether it was, hopefully at least the night before. But yeah, so I'm sitting there propped, and I'm holding on, and it's like, okay, am I really gonna do this? Am I really gonna do this? And we jumped out, and your face is flapping, and it was quite the experience, and I will never do it again, but I can say that I've done it. Yeah,
That's
and
cool.
we had a great landing too. I didn't fall or.
You're here, right?
Yeah.
You made it.
Yep.
That's pretty intense for sure.
Yeah.
Life is in someone else's hands, so.
That's for sure in that one, yeah.
Yeah. So, what would be a unique way, or the most unique way you figure you've ever made money or helped put food on the table, help with bills?
A unique way. I don't know. I think, honestly, really being a realtor to me is a unique way, because, like I said, you have to hustle, where all of my other jobs, they've all been W-2s. That's so easy, you know, in the sense where, I mean, you still have to earn your keep, but if you're not out there hustling and doing the job, you're not going to get your commission. So W-2, you know, you go in, you sign in, you're there at your desk, you go out to accounts, and you're typically gonna get paid. Yeah, but being a realtor, that's probably been the most unique way.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, who are your clients? Like, who do they look like? Is there a particular set of people you find that you attract, or what is that like?
Well, I wouldn't say, well, I mean, like I said earlier, people that look like me typically will gravitate. But I mean, I don't market to any particular clientele. I do a lot of my farming in the Levine and South Mountain areas, because that is where I live. But it's been all over the chart. It's been, are we able to say like family, husband, wife? Okay. So, you know, it's been families, it's been male couples, it's been everybody, you know.
So you're just attracting whoever?
Yeah. And It works that way. I don't know why, but it seems to work that way.
I guess I do a lot of, chatting with a lot of agents, and going back to the cold calling thing, a lot of them have that issue, and typically it doesn't have to do with they're scared of people or anything. It's just they're not how they attract people or how they get with people.
Right.
And I think there's something to that we're attracting who we are, and there's not a lot you can do about it. It's just what you're putting out is what you get back. So
you just don't know who's going to be in the other end of that.
Right.
You don't. And I think, even when you step up to the door and you can tell a person's body language whether or not they want to communicate, continue the conversation, it's different. But yeah, when you're on that phone, it's like, oh, sweat, procrastination, everything else gets done but the calls.
Totally get it. Totally get it. So I was just finding you got to find ways to bring those people and attract them to you.
You do.
So you don't have to make as many of those calls, right?
You don't. And I've learned that that typically they as someone that might explain to you as far as different opportunities to go out there and find to market yourself as a realtor, and typically people say 3. So you could go out and you can door knock. You can do open houses, and then if you want to do calls, and that could be your third one. But yeah, typically it's like look for 3 opportunities that you want to market yourself.
Right, that fit for you and that you'll do actually.
Yeah, that's the thing.
There's something to that. If you're not going to do it, why just do something you're going to do?
Yeah.
Okay. So you have a book. I've asked you about that you like to read. I love asking people about books. I think it's fascinating. I was actually just talking with my daughter the other day. We're trying to figure out how many books and how many movies are in the world. Movies were like 500,000, but the books were like 1.2 million some odd.
Books?
Something like that. No, excuse me, 100 million.
Oh,
100 million books in the world.
Yeah, okay.
And so I was just thinking, I'm like, wow. First of all, you can never watch 500,000 movies, no matter what you think.
Yeah.
And then there's 100 million books out there that people have written, and so I'm always just fascinated what was it about the book that attracted you, and some lesson that you got from it?
So I like to be entertained because, throughout my day, it's work and it's being a mom and those things. So I really like to find entertainment so I can relax and that type of thing. So the last book, or one of the last books, because I've read a couple of them in the past couple of months, but her name is Elaine Welteroth, and it's called More Than Enough. I had to write it down. I didn't want to forget it. But it's about a young lady, and you might have seen her. I've recently seen her on one of the talk shows. I think it's on CBS. Maybe she's been filling in. But it's about a young black woman, and she was raised during the 90s, went to school out in California, and she just found it kind of hard to fit in. So, there's a title just telling you are more than enough to fit into these spaces. And she had different positions, like an editor at Vogue, or I think it was Teen Vogue. She eventually went to either Essence, Jet, one of the black magazines. But, just basically having to remind herself all the time that she was more than enough to be able to fit into these places and fit into these rooms where, like growing up, you walked into them, there was always, you were typically the only black person in the room, but really you were more than enough to be able to walk in that room and satisfy what's going on in that room.
I like that. That's powerful.
How old is your daughter?
So my youngest daughter is 6, but the one I was speaking to, she's 14. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Do you have to make her read? Because I have to make my son
they
read.
won't read. We were just kind of just talking, but yeah, we've kind of like tried to come up with ideas like we'll pay you if you read certain books. They're like, can we pick anything? No, it has to be on our list. So,
right.
Yeah, I try not to be too upset about it. I didn't really grow up reading, but I love reading. So who knows when that bug will catch you, or if it ever will. But so
yeah, okay. I get it. I'd like for my son to read more. Trevor Noah. I bought him that book, which is it's a hilarious book. So sometimes I like to get books that I can also relate to, and we can kind of read them together and kind of
makes sense.
Talk a little bit, but he's a few books behind me, so.
I don't know, there are so many other options, so especially with today, you got YouTube, where you can get some really great content, Audible, where they just read it to you, so I try not to be, there's options.
Right.
So I guess, speaking of your kids, what would be something that if I asked them, why is mom's always harping on, what lesson do you leave with them?
I don't know if he would be able to stop and just tell you one. So he's 16. It's a tough lesson right now. Just, you know, a lot of it could be academics, a lot of it is sports, but I try to have him understand that it all flows into all of his life. You know, time management. So you get up a certain time, you get to school a certain time, you get to class on time. You know, that's all about time management. So when you get a job in the real world, you're gonna have to be there on time. All of that. You know, you gotta show up when it comes to, if you're doing a team sport, you gotta show up for yourself, you gotta show up for the team. You know, you gotta work hard at it, just like you gotta work hard at work. So I guess the big picture is trying to get him to understand that this all kind of encapsulates his life.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool. I think I don't know if it's Zig Ziglar or one of those guys, but they talked about that in particular, is that, you know, you're like, oh, I'm gonna chill off on this aspect of my life. I won't give as much here in this aspect of my life. But he's like, but if you'll do it there, you'll do it anywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, that's so true. If you're willing to cut corners here, you'll cut corners anywhere.
You will.
So that was impressive to me. Yeah, that makes sense. That's a great lesson.
Yeah, he would tell you that every day.
Good. That's a great lesson. Well, hey, I appreciate you coming on. I had a great time. Learned some great things from you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome. Where can we find you? Where can the people find you at?
Okay, let me think here. It's my Instagram is Myrtle Hall, MYRTLEHALL, real estate. And then my Facebook page is Myrtle Hall Realtor. And you can always call me or text me. I'm a little old school, and my number is 602-881-2702.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Oh.